Welcome to Sports Talk on the Max, heard every Friday at noon here on Max 98.3. Hi again, everybody. Tony Ross, along with Doug Griffith, longtime sports editor of Gold and Black. 19 years, to be exact. He bled the black and gold, still does.
Yeah,
now he's got a black and gold outfit on for Navy or for
Army.
Army.
Oh, my
Army.
gosh.
Army.
Tony, hopefully my daughter's not listening from West Point. She'll have a cow, you know.
Okay, we got a full show. And
feels like fall outside, doesn't it?
I'm not happy about that.
It's cool. And you and Rusty have got a ball game today at Bill Nixon Field.
Plymouth and Warsaw.
Big rivalry.
Yes, sirree. Warsaw. They're going in right at 5-4, and the Pilgrims are 4-3-1. The Pilgrims' last game had to be suspended due to darkness, with the Pilgrims having a 6-2 lead. And so, don't know when they're going to get that replayed against Concord, but it's a conference game, so they got to have it finished.
Games are starting to stack up because Mother Nature did her wonderful thing by washing out some games earlier this month. And
yes,
like, it doesn't help when some schools don't have lights and they get games called. When you first told me that, I sort of did a double take, but now that I think about it, you know, in our area, John Glenn doesn't have lights. There's more than a few that still don't.
So the good news is sunshine's going down later and later, and that helps when it comes to some of these games. But this one against Concord was an exceptionally long one. So
it'll be windy today, so it could be an adventuresome outing for infielders and outfielders.
We had a windy day last
on Wednesday,
and it was blowing out. And what a comeback by Bremen! They were able to come from behind and beat Glenn in their last at bats, and it was good. It was a really good game.
But Bremen's playing some good baseball.
Mm-hmm.
They're having a heck of a sports year. Bremen.
And again, there are how do I phrase this? There's such a good balance in that Bremen lineup right now that makes them so tough. He's getting great pitching performances. He's getting good defensive play, but he's got right now a team that's hitting .330 right now. That's good. That's
That'll help.
Good. Yeah, and so the offense has been pretty steady all season long. So the Lions, they got a nice come from behind win, but and for the Falcons, they just had one get away from them, and so if they can rebound mentally from the Wednesday loss, I think they can. They got the ability to do so. I expect those two teams probably have a pretty good run in the postseason in their respective schedules. So we'll see after it's all said and done. But tonight, Plymouth, Warsaw, the Pilgrims. If their schedule wasn't so doggone tough, I mean, maybe one loss going into this game for them, but their schedule just doesn't allow them hardly a chance to breathe. So, tonight's going to be a tough game. And Warsaw, don't let the 5-win and 4
losses,
record fool you.
One of those is the Gaian Catholic.
Guerin is ranked in the top 10. And but I mean, their schedule's strong too. They've had to face Tippecanoe Valley, Edgewood, Columbia City. Elkhart's got a good team this year, and so those are honest losses and honest wins that Warsaw's got right now going into their game on the road here to Bill Nixon Field. So we'll have everything started around 5:15 with the pregame show. 5:30 first pitch expected, as it's Warsaw and Plymouth here on Max 98.3 Sports.
How about the bud? We got to talk about Caitlin Clark, right? Had the WNBA draft earlier this week, and boy, the Caitlin craze is off the charts.
It really is.
I hope
she didn't come out and flop. That would suck.
Everyone worried about the discrepancy of because word came out of her 4-year contract that'll pay her like $330,000.
And
a lot of people
what a joke
went crazy. But then, oh, by the way, a few days later, she inks a deal worth $20 million from Nike.
That's still that's horrible. a woman of her caliber on the court doing what she can do. Now, you got to take into factor this is going to be her first year. Okay. The WNBA is a lot different than what she's going to face come college, or what she did in college. But I will tell you, I think she's even got just as many good matchups as she does non-good matchups. So, I don't know. It's just bad that we see this kind of discrepancy.
Well, I get where people are coming from, but you also have to understand the WNBA struggles to turn a profit, and they're not bringing in the kind of money, not even close, to the NBA. Now, maybe a Caitlin Clark completely changes that, as you and I talked earlier this week about what of their 40 Indiana Fever's 40 regular season games, I think 36 are now on national TV. So certainly with Caitlin Clark's arrival, it will change the entire landscape. It'll change the TV media rights situation, and we've already seen, heck, she hasn't even been an official member of the Indiana Fever for a week, and you're seeing games that she's playing on the road, they're going to move them into bigger arenas, bigger by meaning NBA-type arenas. I was looking at the LA Sparks, when their normal ticket price about to get in is $30 to $50. Their tickets for when the Fever come in, $300. I mean, that's the kind of thing we're dealing with. The demand, and again, I was looking on Twitter, formerly Twitter, now X, and somebody made a post about they can't remember any player, male or female, in any sport having this kind of an impact. I mean, you go back to Bird, Magic, Jordan. I mean, just think about, her draw is unbelievable. Fanatics, of course, is huge in authentic apparel. They sold out Tony within an hour after she was drafted of her jersey. And the country, I should know his name, country music singer, performed last night in Indianapolis. He came out in a Caitlin Clark official jersey. Of course, the place goes crazy. And but I can't ever recall in my lifetime a sports figure who hasn't even played a minute yet of her first pro game having this kind of an impact nationwide.
The good news for her is she knows what pressure is and what it's like. And this is going to test her. I'm anxious to see, because right now everybody's all candy and sugar plums on that Fever team right now. My concern is when she is going to come out of the gate like gangbusters, how everybody's going to handle that. Are they going to handle it like an Iowa team that she played on? They're going to accept their rules. Because listen, you only make money when you produce in the WNBA. If you want the good high contracts,
yeah,
get paid what you're supposed to be getting paid.
Well, and the ceiling for her is going to be people's expectations. They're going to expect her to average 25 a game, 30 a game,
at least twice a game.
Right. And it's a whole, as we, I think, brought it up on last week's show, you're dealing with a lot different caliber type of player.
And you are dealing.
Now, with that said, she'll be surrounded, her teammates will be a lot more gifted than she had at Iowa. Not to knock any of the Hawkeyes, because she had players, but nothing to the degree.
But the challenge is, where are you going to find that balance?
Right.
Of Caitlin Clark touches
yeah.
to shots taken.
And will there be animosity with teammates?
Anybody who is that good, anybody who makes it to the WNBA, the NBA, they are exceptionally talented.
Yeah, gifted.
They are better than talented.
Right. They're the best of the best.
They are the best of the best. And that's why you see, I think, poor approaches to the game of basketball now in the NBA, because they know they're great. They know they can get that $3 million deal for 5 years, and that's why you see, I don't think, as much hustle in the NBA as you do in the college ranks. I see a lot of taken for granted kind of play in the professional league. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how Caitlin handles everything. She knows she's going to be the star. She knows she's got the target on her back. To me, she plays like she wants it. So she wants all that. So that's a good thing. But how I'm concerned. Well, I'm not concerned. I really can't wait to see how her teammates surround her and help her without saying, "Hey, can you share the ball a little bit more?"
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And just by observation, you can't be a showboat with your unless you got your teammates getting a little bit of the love too.
And I mean,
so Caitlin's going to have that balance.
Yeah. What I liked about her game in college is, they had a big turnover in Iowa after last year's team that made the run to the Final Four, and everyone wondered, Iowa's going to struggle to get back to the Final Four, but she's one of those generational players that makes everybody around her better. It's like Michael Jordan. Sure, he had Scottie Pippen.
But can you actually say and compare that Iowa and the four others that are on the court are going to be the same?
Oh, no.
Thinking the same way as the other Fever teammates of hers?
Yeah,
can you honestly say that?
No.
I don't think you can. Those other four that worked with her on the court in Iowa were not professional players. They're just good collegiate players. A couple of them had the better talent to make the draft. This time, you got four other teammates that have earned the right to be in the WNBA.
Right.
By scoring, by assist, by rebounding, and they don't like sharing those categories.
But with that said, I mean, it's not like the Fever are at the top of the WNBA. They got the number one pick because they're coming off of a very bad year. So again, all those women are competitors big time, or they wouldn't be where they are today. And so you would hope that the chemistry is good enough to, at the end of the day, winning is the name of the game. But you don't always get that, certainly in the professional ranks.
How that progresses.
Yep. And she'll have growing pains. I mean, I believe. I mean, the one thing I've heard a lot from Lisa Leslie to great former WNBA players and Olympians say what she has that they can't really remember another player like her coming into the WNBA. She has unbelievable range. And when you can shoot the basketball from 30 and 35 feet out, that makes it very interesting to
see. And I think the WNBA brings a better effort than the NBA.
Oh, I totally agree with you.
A better effort. They're more.
Yep.
I feel more fun to watch than the NBA.
John Wooden, at one time, after he had retired from UCLA, was quoted as saying that he enjoyed women's basketball more than the men's game because they were more fundamentally sound.
Yeah.
And I think that goes right into part with what you're saying, Tony.
Yeah. I'm just saying, how long is it going to take before teammates of Caitlin Clark are going to say, "Hey,
share the
I love
wealth,
you, but can you feed me a few bones here?" Because listen, a contract is also based on performance, and if your numbers are low or they're getting low, just because you got a superstar, it's all about the end result after it's all said and done. So sometimes the way you get it done could be a detriment. I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily, but I do think Caitlin Clark is going to have a lot more open shots because of it being a professional league.
Yeah.
But I also think that when that happens early, she's not going to see those by game 3 of the season.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see.
People do not want Caitlin Clark to burn them. And why? Because she's gotten all this praise.
I'll be interested
what better
to see
challenge
if she
to be a David going up against a Goliath? Come on.
A lot of hay driving to the basket, like she did in the college ranks.
Well, it would behoove her not to.
Yeah.
But, man, listen.
The way they spread things out, though.
Listen, in the league, man, There are some very tall, athletic centers.
Yeah.
They, by the way, can step out and pop a jumper.
That are good rim, very good rim
Exactly.
protectors.
So I think it's going to be a little harder for her to get there, unless for some reason the effort doesn't show up on the opponent's part. I don't know. I don't know what to think.
People won't have to wait long because the WNBA season's right around the corner, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I mean, the Fever's first home game is May 16th, and they open prior to that on the road, I believe, at Connecticut. So, it will be the one thing that we can tell our listeners, and they know it. Caitlin Clark is going to be great for the WNBA, is already great for the WNBA, and definitely will be great for the Indiana Fever and Indianapolis and the state of Indiana.
Well, I'll give a lot of kudos to Clark because she even understands that she's in a basketball state.
Yep.
I
love that about her press conference when she
There's no
said
better
that.
place for her to be than right here.
Yep.
Not too big, not small, just right.
She said part of her decision to leave Iowa when she found out the Indiana Fever had the number one pick, that weighed into her decision to leave. Because like you said, she knew the fans would come out and gravitate like they do at all levels in this state to basketball.
So I think she's going to do fine. She's just got to get through the early tests. And once she figures that out, then Katie bar the door.
Yeah.
And I hope the Fever.
I'm one of those. I'd love to go see her play. There's
I'm with
no
you.
doubt about it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'd love to go see her too. I think Chicago Sky, they got a couple of good draft picks.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to be tough too.
What is it? Is it Mendoza, the girl from South Carolina that's 6'7", if I'm not pronouncing her last name wrong? And then they got the All-American from LSU that's so doggone good. So they'll be good. And let's not forget the former Purdue coach, Lynn Dung, coaches Indiana Fever. So she really got Purdue basketball going back just prior to them winning the national championship under Carolyn Peck. So I think Caitlin Clark is in a fantastic place. And, if all goes as expected, she will be another Indiana legend in the game of basketball.
Well, it'll be fun to watch her, that's for sure. Let's take a break, come back with more sports talk after this. Welcome back here to the show. Doug Griffith, Tony Ross, and Sports Talk on the Max. All right, what's next on the agenda?
Piggybacking off of the WNBA draft, how about, this is hard for me to believe, Tony, the NFL draft is just days away. It starts on Thursday, believe it or not. Of course, it lasts through next Saturday, but as I know all our listeners are well aware, tons of talk about what's going to happen, who's going to take who, but I know the number one pick in the draft belongs to the Chicago Bears, and they are going to pick USC quarterback Williams.
I hope Williams has changed his tune.
Yeah.
He didn't want to go to Chicago.
Right, early on,
I don't want to go to Chicago.
No to the Windy City.
Yeah, I don't want to go to Chicago. And all of a sudden, okay, we got talks of a new stadium.
Probably the best in his business, probably best for his business ventures to probably say, sure, I'll go where they're going to draft me.
I'll go where we're being asked. But
you talk about Caitlin Clark and how about the pressure, Williams? I mean, for my whole life, the Bears have been searching for a quarterback that's a franchise quarterback. Let's be real. And they have never had one.
Williams is good, but is the Bears' offense going to make him good? I mean, it's the same question we
You better
needed-
have
we
guys
needed
up
to,
front. Man, that league's brutal. I don't care who you have under center. If you don't have the guys that can block for him, and that's been part of the. This is my belief, and I'm by no means an expert when it comes to the NFL, but I liked Justin Fields. I heard the knocks against him, that he couldn't read coverages very well, and I just don't think the Bears did everything in their power to really make him succeed. It wasn't like he had a dynamite offensive line to play in back of.
No.
So,
But if his strength is running,
right.
and you're a head coach who doesn't mind a run, but he likes to spread things out, something's got to give. And the Bears made it perfectly clear that they weren't willing to give up Eberflus or make a change.
Yeah.
So what do you do? In this case, you lost Justin when it all got out to the fact that he may have been on the trade block. I think he understood that finding the right coach right now for the Bears is probably priority number one. Did he do a good job of that? No. But he's your head coach. And he's got a system. He's had a system that he felt has worked, despite all the warning signs from Indianapolis and their fans and radio talk show hosts. But Eberflus is our guy. And so now, I don't know if you're saving face by making that kind of move, getting rid of Fields and bringing in your draft pick. I don't know. But if this doesn't work, if this draft pick doesn't work, I don't.
Oh, this is sink or swim
Yeah,
for not only Eberflus, but Ryan Pace. Go down the line.
Yeah.
But and I hope I'm dead wrong, but it's tough when you're a lifelong Bears fan. Not too many years ago, we quote unquote wasted a number 3 first round pick on Trubisky. He didn't last very long. We again another high first round pick in Justin Fields. He didn't last too long. Now we're being told Williams, he's the second coming. You can't pass on a guy like this.
Fields, okay, I'm having a complete brain cramp. Did Fields come up from Ohio State?
Yeah.
So now where's Williams coming from?
USC. Both those guys transfer. Fields transferred from Georgia to Ohio State, and I don't know, and I haven't. I will admit to our listeners, I didn't watch Williams a ton at USC. I did watch him against Notre Dame. And he did not look good.
No.
Now, credit Notre Dame. Notre Dame had a really good defense, but and I know it takes all 11, but I was like, this guy's all that, and
I think the one thing that could be beneficial for Williams is if they start the season early with short route passing. For him, at the first game I think preseason is going to be crucial, but get him throwing high percentage passes. Don't be running the complicated routes just yet. Let him get some confidence. And go from there. Now, I think it's also going to be a process for him, which could lead straight into the beginning few games of the season, regular season. But, you got to figure out where Williams' strength is that's going to work on this level. We know what he did on the college level, but this is a whole new ball of wax.
Now, this is a video game on fast forward.
Yeah, this is a video game on steroids. That's what it is. And
no pun intended.
He's got to... And he's got to figure out how to get adapted real quick.
Well, and he'll have receivers. DJ Moore, who they brought in.
Yeah.
And now they're talking about, by the way, I know our listeners out there are full aware or should be aware that the Bears not only have the number 1, they have the number 9 pick in the draft. And there's a lot of people that think they'll take the Washington wide receiver, Odunze, I think's his name, Rome Odunze, who's a terrific wide receiver. And if they get him, Williams will have 3 targets to throw to. I just again, go
Now,
back.
while that sounds good,
But again, the Bears may take a rush in DN, so
and maybe that's
not a rock solid. That's
I just feel there
some
need-
prognosticators
for the Bears to
think
make
that.
the playoffs, they have to make about 3 to 4 moves.
But I
personnel
mean, Tony,
moves.
it's a rarity, as you well know, for rookie quarterbacks to have very good seasons, sometimes even average seasons in that league. It is not a forgiving league for new players, especially at that position.
No, it's not. And I don't know. I just think there's more. It has to be done on the lines than. I like our secondary.
Oh yeah,
Our secondary's got they're quick, some experience. The linebacking core, I'm a 50-50-er on that one. But I like Sundberg. That kid, at least he brings effort. And he's going to come up at least with 1 or 2 big plays. So I don't know. And right now it's hard for me to talk football when we're in spring and it's baseball. But it's nice to hear when.
well, you
your
don't
team
get
like
the
the Bears
number
are
one
doing
pick
something.
in the draft very often, and when you do, you better hit a grand slam with it.
you better.
And again, the Bears have struck out a heck of a lot more times with their first round picks than not. And they've had a lot of different head coaches and a lot of different general managers making those picks. So I don't know if it's the water in Chicago or what, but they have had a heck of a time making hay with the draft. Whereas other organizations and franchises have cleaned up, seems like year after year in the draft. And one of them's right there in their division, the Green Bay Packers.
Yep.
And, the Packers have the number 25 pick this year, and they have a lot of draft picks again. And they apparently have found something in Jordan Love. So, Williams is going to have to
Jordan
be as
Love
good
kind of
as.
proved himself,
Yeah.
I think.
And Williams is going to have to be that good because, oh, by the way, the Detroit Lions aren't the laughing stock anymore. And that's just in their division. So it's a quarterback league. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows what Patrick Mahomes has done. Josh Allen at Buffalo. You go down the list. If you don't have a really good quarterback, you're not doing anything in that league.
Yeah. All right, 12:31. It's Sports Talk on the Max on a Friday afternoon. Every Friday at noon, you can hear us. We'll come back, talk some more. Don't go away. Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Max. We get ready for another conversation. Are we talking baseball this time?
Well, I thought we'd save baseball to maybe our last segment or our next segment.
All right. All right.
Transfer portal's another
God.
huge topic, and should bring up, by the way,
What
for
top 25 players went through this today?
those our listeners wondering if that'll ever end for football. College football transfer portal did just end, the window where players can put their names in the transfer portal. FYI, college basketball players, the deadline is May 1st. So you're still having, that's why on a daily basis you're seeing this player, that player from this school, that school declare and put their name in the transfer portal. locally, IU, struck it big with the 7-foot Ballo kid out of Arizona, who a lot of people, and rightfully so, regarded as the top name in that transfer portal. He committed to Indiana, and of course, as we all know, Mike Woodson's made a lot of noise in the transfer portal the last couple years, and really has to this season because of where their good centers off to the NBA and just the holes they have in their roster. They really needed to fill those voids through the transfer portal, and that's the way, at least that's Woodson's philosophy. Some might agree with it, some may disagree with it, but it's widely known that IU has a lot of NIL money, and they're using that to lure players. Again, it's up for debate whether you believe in this day and age you can reload or rebuild your team every single year through the transfer portal. I spent some time this week looking at the Final Four teams and even the teams that advanced to the Elite Eight, and how many of those teams relied heavily in the transfer portal. Now obviously, UConn, they got the Spencer kid from Rutgers, so he was a transfer portal guy, and their big guy, Klingon, he was just a 2-year player at UConn, but he was that good. He was homegrown, and he's off to the NBA. So, again, like it or not, it's here. I think it's here to stay. In fact, the NCAA yesterday just approved legislation that players in good academic standard will be able to transfer as much as they want during their college career. So Tony Ross, if he went to School A and was unhappy after 1 year at School A, you could transfer to his second school. Again, same scenario. After his second year, he could transfer again and again without ever sitting out. So in theory, in your 4 years of eligibility, you could go to 4 different schools because, oh, by the way, that extra year of eligibility, thanks to COVID, finally ends this year. Let's hope. Who knows? They could have legislation that brings back an additional
I wouldn't be surprised.
year. So
wouldn't be surprised.
Between the transfer portal and NIL, it's really hard to keep up. And I guess years ago, Tony, we probably should have seen this coming. And I say that because we knew things like video games and the NCAA tournament, the NCAA in general, was making so much money off college athletes, and some of the traditionalists that said, well, college athletes are getting a paid education, that was good for them, but for them, I think a lot of people said, oh, it's not fair that they don't profit off their jersey sales, off the likeness of their video games, and they should share some of the revenue. And so there we have it. And, for me, what's really a problem for me to stomach is you have coaches, and I know this for a fact, are tampering with players during games, like as they're warming up, inquiring if player A and B are going to use their COVID year and would be interested to transfer to their school. I mean, it's just nuts. And supposedly there's tampering rule, but they're not enforced by the NCAA. And you just wonder what trickle-down effect this will have. Of course, for the Big Ten schools and the Power 5 schools, where they have tons more money than your other schools in college, how it's going to impact. I mean, can you imagine being a Mid-American Conference coach and you build a team or recruit a team knowing that when this all-conference guy or that all-conference guy gets through said season, they're going to up and leave for another school? There's no way they're staying because there's a pot of gold awaiting for them at another school. And this is just me kind of thinking out loud. What does this do in the long term to recruiting of the high school ranks? Because again, let's just do Indiana, for example. That again, they're still recruiting at the high school level, but if I'm a high school senior or junior or sophomore and I use recruiting, don't you have that thought in your head that, well, they're just going to, and again, programs, whether it's football or basketball, they always recruit over your head. But don't these high school kids now think, if I go to this school that relies heavily on the transfer portal, I may never get to play if I commit to that school. And they're going to recruit over me from the day I arrive. And I just wonder whether high school recruiting is going to get watered down. Now, there's going to still be coaches that rely heavily on the high school ranks, but it's definitely something to watch. And, and then the coaches that think they have pretty good teams coming back, even the high-profile guys in Power 5, they're holding their breath thinking, hey, does Joe Smith wake up tomorrow and he's my all-conference guard, but he wants to transfer even though we were top 5 in the nation. And, there's been some head-scratchers. I'll bring up some names. A.J. Storer, who was Wisconsin's leading scorer, who transferred the year before from St. John's, goes to Wisconsin. Of course, they made the NCAA tournament. He enters the transfer portal, and he's off to Kansas. Mm-hmm. And his asking price, it was widely known, was $1 million plus. $1 million. Now, he's proven, that he can score at the high college level. But, then you have, and Chucky Hepburn, the other Wisconsin guard, he threw his name in the portal yesterday. It's gotten so crazy that even McCaffrey, the Iowa coach, his son, who plays for him, enters the transfer portal. Just when you think it can't get more crazy, it does. And, the Perkins kid, who's an Indianapolis kid who started at guard for Iowa, he's in the transfer portal. And it's just like, I maybe understand if you want to get closer to home or whatever, but if you're at a proven program that's winning and they're giving you a decent amount of NIL money and you still leave for even more money, that's when it's just like, expect the unexpected, because that's the world we live in now. And heck, and the other thing is, we haven't even talked about coaching changes. For instance, Kentucky, Calipari leaves to go to Arkansas. They bring in former Kentucky player Mark Pope from BYU to run that, and it's mass exodus from Kentucky. So here he is in mid to late April. He's having to restructure his team. Well, how do you think he's going to do that?
Yep.
He's going to go to the transfer portal. And it is, well, you and I talked the other day, it is pro sports free agency that with no rules or anything and no salary cap. It's like Major League Baseball. There is no salary cap.
And that's where, and that's why college basketball, college sports, because if you think it's successful now, wait till it starts reaching the baseball ranks, the softball ranks, and
it has women's basketball. The Cavallari, or what I think that's their last names. They announced they're going back to Miami. Mm-hmm. Why? Because they figured out, hey, a year away from that money that we made at Miami, Florida, wasn't as great. So we're going to come back and hook up again with the Miami multi-millionaire and get paid a lot of money.
I don't know. I just, to me, the games are now getting watered down, and I don't know. You just don't see. I feel we're losing the commitment factor, or the loyalty factor, maybe is the word I want to use. You go to a school because you've grown up either loving them, or your parents came from that school and you're just blessed enough to have the gift to play the game. It's like it doesn't mean much anymore. You follow the Benjamin. Is that wrong? Part of me wants to say yes, but the other part's saying, no, it's not wrong. If this is what they're offering me, why wouldn't I take it?
Well, and there's no sure thing that some of these guys will even make the NBA.
It's not like these NIL contracts say, well, if you get hurt mid-season.
Oh, no. It's guaranteed money.
It's guaranteed money, man. And I know a lot of the schools don't have a lot of say-so in what the NCAA does. They can say all they want they do, but they don't. For the NCAA, they got to figure out a way to make the money to keep the NIL going. Because ultimately, the NCAA has allowed this to happen. So it's kind of a real vicious circle.
Well, and let's not be naive. Even before the NIL, a lot of schools were buying players, period. I mean, you saw not too long ago the FBI investigated. They had wiretaps of several schools, LSU, the basketball, LSU, Arizona, Kansas, you name them. And so paying players has gone on for a long, long time under, in the cover of darkness, supposedly. It's just now, a lot of listeners, they don't have any idea how crazy this is when I tell you it is a fact that a Wisconsin assistant coach approached two Purdue players, Ethan Morton and Mason Gillis, before their game in Mackey Arena, asking them if they were going to use their COVID years. And, Mason Gillis said, well, I haven't really given it much thought. And, the insinuating, we'd have a spot for you. Come play for us. That's how crazy it's gotten. And then Calipari goes down to Arkansas. A lot of people probably don't know, Arkansas has a few $billion donors, at their disposal. Yeah. One of them being the Walmart group. And, I just saw Memphis inked a deal for their NIL, I believe Federal Express, which is based out of Memphis. I think this just broke today. They are allocating $5 million a year for the next 3 to 5 years for the University of Memphis's NIL coffers.
Who's doing that?
Federal Express. FedEx. So how about that one? So now you're going to have companies backing these schools, and, it's just, I mean, where does it end? I don't know where it ends. It eventually is going to strangle. If you tiered, the top 5 conferences, you got to figure it strangles eventually all the schools and universities below, because how they will compete, from a football standpoint and a basketball standpoint, it really makes the playing field drastically unlevel.
It really does. And
I mean,
that's the shame of it all.
Yeah, for the Big Ten fans and
Now, the one thing I will say this, I think the NIL is going to work for a lot. It's not going to work for a lot. It's going to work for the few, especially when it comes time bargaining to get into it. If you're an NBA quality player, it'll help you. But there's going to be so many more that are going to be disappointed. But they're going to probably graduate with $500,000 in their bank account, which is what all they're looking at.
Right.
Unfortunately, the educational value of all this.
Yeah, this really cannot make university presidents and administrators happy, just because, like you said, it is taking away the college education greatly and making it, like you said, all about money.
Yeah.
And, I also wonder, and maybe the money will never run out. Maybe the donors are so rich that they don't care, but, we've both known several wealthy people in our lives, and they usually invest their money and they want something back in return, right? Well, make IU as an example. So it's not like Woodson has not had talent. I mean, he had Trace Jackson Davis and Hood Schifino both went to the NBA, and they won one play-in game in the NCAA tournament and then lost. Last year, they didn't even make the NCAA tournament. Again, had an NBA player in Ware. and they paid him a good chunk of change too. You're talking about a program that hasn't been to the Sweet 16 in over a decade. My question would be, if there's 1, 2, or 3 big donors, and this goes awry yet again, and they've given Ballo another, 7 figures or close to it. As an investor, do you ever say, "Though this isn't working out. I'm done with this."
Yeah.
Just opening up my checkbook and we're scraping to make the NCAA tournament. And I'm not just picking on IU. I mean, I remember North Carolina a couple years ago. They tried to load up on the transfers. And the problem becomes, and I've heard it from a ton of my IU friends that graduated from Bloomington, is you better watch out, because you're getting guys that they're not playing for the name of the jersey, like Tony said earlier in the show. You're playing for that pot of gold. And how much vested interest you have at the end of the day for your team winning a said basketball game or having a successful season is very much in question. And it is very challenging and difficult for coaching staffs, and they agree to it. This is how they want to construct their teams. But to construct a team in a short time frame, like 3 or 4 months is what you're talking about, and being able to really hit their groove come January, February, and March. Again, I don't know if we've seen it yet, that a team built of all transfers have gone a long way in the tournament.
I think it's kind of a little bit early to really put that litmus test out there, but here again, I just feel like right now it's just nothing to gain but money for players. That's how this has been made. And
its intent, its original intent has totally gone off the rails.
It's gotten abused.
Yeah.
Because no guidelines have come with it.
Yep.
And that just makes me sad, because there's a lot of good kids who are making decisions being led by their agents, who's all about the money, and they pound it in their kid's head. Listen, you'll be able to get this X amount. You'll be worth this X amount if this, and this happens. That's just it. If.
And remember, before, players couldn't sign with agents. That was a no-no. Right. And now you can have agents, and it's the pro ranks. And but then again, for schools I'm not naive, Purdue pays, they have an NIL, they have departments of NIL. If you don't, you're really setting yourself up for failure. But at least the widespread knowledge is Purdue isn't going out in basketball. Now, Ryan Walters, he filled a lot of voids through the transfer portal, and he's the first to admit Purdue's NIL money coffer for football this year compared to last is night and day. And because of it, they were able to go out and get one of the top transfer classes in the country. All I know is Matt Painter, the last 2 years, not including this year, he's gotten 1 transfer, Lance Jones, David Jenkins. This year, if all stays like most people think it will in West Lafayette, Purdue will not hit the transfer portal. But again, that's not to say Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, Trey Kaufman-Wren, they're all getting NIL money. Make no mistake about it. Yeah. But where it really becomes an advantage, I think, and I could be wrong, to Purdue, is Purdue forever has had to get the right kind of player, the right fit for Purdue. Forever it used to be the knock against Gene Cady and then Matt Painter. Oh, we never get a 5-star, rarely get a 5-star. Well, those Cady and Painter believed, there was a price tag, one that came with those 5 stars, and you had to deal with a lot of their handlers, and they just decided to go another direction. And I think the foundation that they have set up through the years is benefiting them now, because they're still
students as a whole, not just as a basketball player, but they're getting a hell of a degree from a university. Right. And and that's all the same thing can be said for every guy that's trying to move and in the portal at other colleges. I just feel, like I said, I almost like a broken record, but this is the only thing that comes to mind for me, and that is it just makes the educational part of it secondary.
Right. And again, don't get me wrong, there's 2,000 players, including walk-ons, in the transfer portal for basketball right now. There are many players that use it to better themselves, not just financially, but again, and I bring up Purdue a lot because that's what I know best. Lance Jones, for instance, came from Southern Illinois last year. I know this for a fact. He did not ask for, hey, Matt Painter and coaches, I want $50,000 or $100,000, or I'm not going to sign for Purdue. He wanted a bigger stage. He wanted to play Power 5 basketball. He was from Evanston, Illinois. He grew up in Big Ten country, obviously played at Southern Illinois. There are a lot of players that do that. Damask, the kid, his teammate who went to Illinois was the same way. The kid from Tennessee, Tony, who we saw was one of the best players in the country, same way. He transferred to a bigger stage, if you will, in college. So it's not every player out there is about the money. The ones you usually hear about are getting the bigger paydays.
Yeah. All right, when we come back, we'll have very minimal time to squeeze in some baseball talk, but we'll try when we come back on Sports to the Max on Max 98.3. Well, Talon's going to be a welcome surprise back into the Cubs lineup today. They're playing this afternoon, the Miami Marlins. Finally, the Cubs coming home from the West Coast swing where they didn't do that bad, especially with the ups and downs and injuries that were popping up right and left. I'm glad to see they're home, and it'll be interesting. Again, the Cody Bellinger talk is popping up again, and it's like, listen, this is you knew what you're getting when you got this guy. He gets in streaks. And, he'll get himself out of it. Don't push the panic button here all of a sudden.
He had a homer the other day.
Yeah, exactly. Which leads me to believe, why are you even talking about the fact that, he hasn't hit the ball or hasn't done this? He's okay.
Yeah. I've watched him. He's hit some balls right on the nose, too. The tough luck,
I'm glad to see Tachman's taking advantage of his playing time.
Yep.
And producing.
Italian will have a great pitching day today. It's about mid-40s at Wrigley Field. I was looking, and they'll now, since they got rained out yesterday, they're going to have 4 games in 3 days, doubleheader tomorrow.
Yep, doubleheader tomorrow.
Against a Marlins team, I think that's only won 4 games. this season. So
Yeah.
you'd hope the Cubs could.
But they're facing a winless pitcher in Puck, and he's got an ERA of 5.91, something like that. So, yeah, I think it could be a really good day to be a Cub fan. And while we got a minute and a half left here of the show, White Sox, they're on the road in Philadelphia. The good news for the Sox tonight is they got Crochet going, and he's throwing 22 innings, striking out 31 and walking 4. But he's 1-2 because he's had no offensive help, and the ERA is right at 3.57. So he's been really the only bright spot, I feel.
The bad news for the Sox is their season's over, and we're in mid-April. I mean, they're 9.5 games back already, if you can believe it. But that's what happens when you only win 3 ball games. I mean, they're I think the least amount of wins in all of Major League Baseball. And boy, I'll tell you what, Tony, you thought the Oakland A's attendance was bad. I saw the last couple games, and
At the Sox,
it
barely
was
1,000.
brutal. I
Barely
mean,
1,000.
brutal.
You
If there are-
lost your butt.
If there's truth
The last
behind
2
heading
games.
to Nashville, they keep that.
I don't know if Nashville's going to want
I
him.
mean, right. I mean, my eyes almost, and again, I know Chicago, even the Cubs, they don't get the greatest of crowds in April. I'm sure today there'll be a ton of empty seats at Wrigley just because of the cool weather. But when you have 1,000 people there, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
And that was a sight you
That
didn't
is kind
really
of
want to
embarrassing.
see.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
That
And
was
again,
kind of
even if they
embarrassing.
don't leave, they want a new stadium
Right.
down in the loop. I mean, are their owners going to want to
Well, their
invest
play
in
isn't
that?
dictating that, I'll tell you that much.
No.
So, all right. We got baseball. Speaking of which, high school baseball later this afternoon. It'll be Plymouth hosting Warsaw. We'll have it for you right here on Max 98.3. And we'll, again, be on the air around 5:15 for that. Doug, have a good weekend.
You too, Tony. Take care.
All right. We'll talk to you later this afternoon for the Knicks.